Rebecca asked me to do the meditation reading today. The revolution will not be televised. You will not be able to stay home, brother. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out. You will not be able to lose yourself on Skag and skip out for a beer during commercials. Because the revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by Xerox in 4 parts without commercial interruptions. The revolution will not show you pictures of Nation blowing a bugle and leading a charge by John Mitchell, General Abrams, and Mendel Rivers to eat hog maws confiscated from a Harlem sanctuary. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by Schaefer Award Theater and will not star Natalie Woods and Steve McQueen or Bullwinkle and Julia. The revolution will not make you look 5 pounds thinner. The revolution will not be televised, brother. There will be no pictures of you and Willie Mays pushing that shopping cart down the block on the dead run. NBC will not be able to predict the winner at 8:32 on reports from 29 districts. The revolution will not be televised. Green Acres, the Beverly Hillbillies, and Hooterville Junction will no longer be so damn relevant. And women will not care if Dick finally screwed Jane on Search for Tomorrow because black people will be in the street looking for a brighter day. The revolution will not be televised. There will be no highlights on the 11 o'clock news and no pictures of hairy-armed women liberationists and Jackie Onassis blowing her nose. The theme song will not be written by Jim Webb or Francis Scott Key, nor sung by Glenn Campbell, Tom Jones, Johnny Cash, or Engelbert Humperdinck. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be right back after a message about a white tornado, white lightning, or white people. You will not have to worry about a dove in your bedroom, a tiger in your tank, or the giant in your toilet bowl. The revolution will not go better with Coke. The revolution will not fight the germs that may cause bad breath. The revolution will put you in the driver's seat. The revolution will not be televised. Will not be televised. Will not be televised. Will not be televised. The revolution will be no rerun, brothers. The revolution will be live.
Social Justice Committee to create and send a care package to support and show solidarity to the Ferguson protesters. And that is not what I'm going to talk about today. In 1969, a jazz poet famously said, "The revolution will not be televised." The poem expressed the sentiment that complacency and television culture and capitalism would not allow change, that the truth could not and would not be portrayed accurately by those in control of the images that you get to see. But what if the mainstream media wasn't in control of what you get to see? What if no one is? According to UU World, Ferguson is Selma. Mike Brown is Emmett Till. The Ferguson protests are the Montgomery boycott. Think about it, you got the National Guard. They've been deployed. The KKK is threatening. The civil rights protests are getting tear gas. Did you ask yourself, what year is it? It would appear that history is really repeating itself. But I'm here to argue that what is happening in America and across the world right now has never happened before in history. This is completely unprecedented. The day the civil rights movement met social media. Let me explain. First, I have to tell you something about myself. This is very embarrassing. You do not know this about me. Did not march at Selma.
You were like 3.
I never donated money to buy station wagons to donate to the Montgomery, Alabama boycotters. I never even got into an argument with my family about the significance of Martin Luther King. Because I was born in 1969, and by the time I got here, it was all over, and I have never forgiven God for this oversight. God made it up to me with a vengeance. I want to explain Twitter. Twitter is a website where you can put a message called a tweet, and you can read other people's tweets. This can be done on
the mic.
This can be done on your computer, but it can also be done on your telephone. This is called microblogging. Is it too much or too much?
Wow.
Yeah, just move it.
No, you need to be loud into the microphone.
Okay. But you can only use 140 characters. This was created in 2006. It now has 271 million active users all over the world. And according to Pew Research, 40% of African Americans ages 18 to 29 use Twitter as opposed to 28% of whites the same age. That's going to be very important. I need to explain the hashtag. A hashtag is a type of metadata tag, which means the word is a link. You write a word or a phrase. You put a number sign in front of it, and you've just created a link that you can click on. Now you can find messages that are also tagged that way. You've also created a way to allow electronic tracking of all the messages with that tag. Give me 3 times. 1, 2, and there, start with it. This is a tweet. Antonio French posted this picture. I liked it, so I retweeted it. If you saw that, you could favorite it to say you liked it. You could retweet it yourself, or you could respond to it. If you are responding to your friend, they might respond back, and you can have a conversation. If you respond to the President of the United States, he's probably not going to say anything to you. All right, here. I have to say, I got on Twitter in 2012 because my best friend was on it. She writes on my website, she interviews authors, and she has an interesting life, and I like to know what she's doing. And then I promptly got off of it because what can you say that's going to be profound if you can only use 140 characters? All right, so now you know the vocabulary. Let's talk about Ferguson, Missouri.
What does FTP mean?
Back up.
FTP is the tagger's initials.
It also means file
No,
transfer.
sir. That is an obscenity. F word, the police.
It also means file transfer protocol.
It's the F word. And T is the, and P is police. Right, thanks. Thank you. Please ask questions. All right, this is Ferguson, Missouri. This is a suburb of St. Louis. 10-minute drive. On August 9th, Mike Brown, an unarmed 18-year-old black resident of Ferguson, was shot at noon. According to a Pew Research study, 146,000 tweets about this event and the demonstrations that followed occurred before any major cable news organization covered it. Now, why? People get shot by cops all the time. Unarmed men of color get shot by cops a lot. Now, we can't tell you how often because there is no national database recording this information. Think about that for a second. But why was the death of Michael Brown different from anybody else? John Crawford III was shot at a Walmart for holding a pellet gun. Darian Hunt was shot in Utah 6 times in the back for carrying a sword. And 2 weeks ago, Culver George was shot in Gretna, Florida for walking away from a cop in his own house and was shot 3 times in his bathroom. Why is Gretna, Florida not on fire? I can answer that. A live tweet is when you look at an event and tweet it on your phone and tell your friends about it. Some people talk about what they're eating for dinner. I don't know why. People have live tweeted television shows. This is a thing. This was the first time that the killing of an unarmed man by a policeman was live tweeted. This is a musician. His stage name is The Pharaoh. He refuses to talk to the media, but you cannot erase what goes on Facebook. The dude was running, and the cops just shot him. I saw him die. This is one that gets me. I saw his parents out there. They were 20 feet away from him, screaming. What's the most profound thing you can say in 140 characters? Mike Brown's body was on the street for 4.5 hours. That is a lot of time to take a picture and put it. Sorry. 4.5 hours. This is not done with a digital camera that you hook up to your computer. You do it from your phone. 96%, no, 91. 91% of Americans have cell phones. Some 60% of them can contact the internet with their cell phones. This is why the civil rights movement is happening in Ferguson, Missouri. Civil rights movement needs the social media. You want to watch history happen? Google it. All right, now remember hashtags, right? So, 7 witnesses said that the shooting of Mike Brown, he died with his hands in the air, thus inspiring the chant, hands up, don't shoot. So all around the world, well, all around America in particular, people took pictures of themselves protesting with their hands in the air and put them online. This is Hong Kong. For at least a day, the Hong Kong protesters marched with their hands in the air. The revolution was tweeted around the world. This is why I'm saying this is unprecedented. Civil rights movement needs the social media. All right, now after this service, I'm going to suggest you, as Unitarians, make a show of support for the Ferguson protesters. Did we get online?
Yes.
Yeah.
I managed it.
Thank you. All right, now, you might ask yourself, okay, some of these protesters are getting arrested. I mean, I see them and shouting on TV, and we were told that rocks were thrown. And there were absolutely Molotov cocktails because some protesters claimed that they took them down. Why should I be supporting protesters? Maybe they deserve it. I've got to remind you of something. First off, for 2 solid months, the Ferguson Police Department said that if the protesters stopped walking for 5 seconds, they'd be arrested for loitering. I thought that was kind of weird. So did a federal judge, who said in October that you can't do that. But you know, you get arrested for something that's not constitutional, you still have legal fees. And while we're talking about who got arrested, I'd like to introduce you to Antonio French. Remember St. Louis is less than 10 minutes away. Antonio French is an alderman in St. Louis, in Ward 21, 5 minutes away from Ferguson. He's been very concerned about what's been going on in Ferguson before. And when the protest started, he showed up, took lots of pictures, and got arrested for sitting in his car. If you want to know what's happening in Ferguson right now, you get on Twitter and you follow Antonio French. All right, and while I'm talking about things that have never happened before in history, can we please remember that on August the 15th, Fox News and Huffington Post agreed on something? The IAPA issued a complaint. The Ferguson police were not giving us an autopsy. They were arresting journalists. I will never forget August the 15th, when the statement was put to Ferguson and the President of the United States and the Department of Justice, and it was signed by Huffington Post and Fox News. That's just, I just had to throw that in there. Yes. Gil Scott Heron is the beat poet, the jazz poet, who wrote, "The revolution will not be televised. The images we receive will not come from commercial media." I'm going to skip all that. What I want you to know is hashtags can be tracked. That's what I want you to know. Remember hashtags. This allows you to track who's talking about what, if you need to know these things. All right. 2 days after the shooting, young people, particularly young people of color, began posting sets of pictures under the hashtag, "If They Gun Me Down," a visual meditation of the fact that when an unarmed person is killed by the police, the picture the media uses is never the nice one. And I have a link, I've got all these links for me, and I did not have time to put up there. There is a devastating article on the Huffington Post comparing the headlines of people who go in and shoot many people, as opposed to the headlines of when a person of color gets shot by the police. The headline for the shooter is always complimentary, and the picture is always his hero picture. And he was such a nice guy and soft-spoken. The other, not so much. Several people, old and young, showing themselves at their best and themselves being silly, thus bringing it to light that everybody has a picture of them they don't want people to see, especially if they grow up. Everyone can be portrayed at their best. Everyone can be portrayed at their worst. This hashtag made the New York Times, possibly the first time in history that a hashtag became important, and that's where I got involved. When I saw that a hashtag mattered, I determined I would get on Twitter and hashtag Mike Brown every single day. I wanted to do my part to keep this hashtag alive, even after the fury died down, and the fury did not die down. But this is why I, little old me in Oklahoma, can see history happening right in front of me. On November 11th, I read on Twitter that Jay Nixon, the governor of Missouri, had made the statement, "Violence will not be tolerated." Immediately, our friend Antonio French said, "Yes, that's what the protesters have been saying this whole time." They're really getting hit with a rubber bullets. Who knew? So right now, if you go on Twitter and hit the hashtag, "Violence will not be tolerated," this is what you're going to get. I could not find the picture, but there was an international picture of the world, and it said, "Violence will not be tolerated, police brutality across the world." That's what the hashtag means now. Let's see. Would you search? Yeah, I said that. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Friends, yes,
Will not be tolerated, as set out by the governor, meant that he thought that the protesters were violent, but they turned it around and made it into police are violent. And that's what it means now.
Exactly. Yes, thank you.
Yes.
I really was going to quit there because I promised myself we have to get out of here by the go to Noah's party. No matter what happens this last week, I absolutely will not add it to the presentation, and then the unicorn showed up on the KKK website. And here we are. Things that have never happened before in history. All right. So you remember how in Selma, the people prepared for the great Selma to Montgomery March, and the KKK flew airplanes over and dropped pamphlets down, explaining their position. In the modern world, the KKK posts tweets. I'm being sarcastic. They just walked around handing these flyers out. They walked around handing flyers out, saying, "We will use lethal force against the protesters who are really terrorists." And don't you know, Jay Nixon never did say anything about that. Go figure. All right, so there's an online group called Anonymous, and I don't want to talk about them. Okay. But they're hackers, they're vigilantes, they're really arrogant, they like to argue that they're awesome, and they control the internet. They threatened to hack into the KKK's, this local group, hack into their database and unhood them and include their names and addresses and places of employment, which they Now you'll see, and this is the Ku Klux Klan USA, right? They tweeted, haha, these threats, they're cowards, we have our hoods on. 409 people thought that was amusing. 886 people retweeted it. The next day, 6.5 thousand people thought it was pretty amusing when in fact the KKK's website was hacked. I took off the image. It is a picture of a Klansman hanging from a rope. You know, I find lynchings offensive, so I didn't put it on here. But wow, 8.3 thousand people thought that was hysterical. The traffic on this website was way up after Anonymous hacked it, and I just think that's hysterical. This one was funnier.
So this is,
It's happening last week.
the KKK's website is now taken over by not WikiLeaks, but Anonymous.
As of 1:30 last night.
Yeah.
I don't know if they have control of it. They might be able to post there, but why would they want to? And apparently, they put up another Twitter account to talk about it, and it got hacked. And it just goes on and on and on.
So if you put in at Ku Klux Klan USA,
Yes.
you will get the message that Anonymous put up on there.
Yes.
Rather than something the KKK, because the KKK no longer control
Yes.
their own,
Yes.
their own.
Anonymous hacked it, they changed the password, so now the Klansmen don't have access to their media, and then they've taken it over.
Yes.
If you notice, right by
Don't
the
mess
name,
with Anonymous.
right by the name of Ku Klux Klan, the profile picture is the logo of Anonymous.
Anonymous.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
if you want an uplifting article, I have the link. Apparently the Klan is a dying breed. Apparently there is no Klan. There are a lot of splinter groups that tell each other that they're secretly Jews and have like girlfriends. And this particular group that, I mean, I've been to their Facebook. I wanted to watch my computer afterwards. But their Facebook talks about hanging out with the Ferguson police, which is kind of alarming. But this particular group in Ferguson, the article about it said they really thought the internet was where they were going to recruit new people. It didn't go so well. All right. There is so much information. I have a copy of all this with my links. We have, if I've said anything that makes you angry, we have some petitions for you to sign. I want to end on a high note. The protests in Ferguson, Missouri have been going on for over 100 days. They have been dramatic. They have been artistic. They have been heart-wrenching. They have been creative. These people are dressed up like cones and they're blocking traffic. Yes. I love the internet. Now, the last time I checked, and I used to check it every day and I gave up after 113. Right now, there are 113 protests planned across America, one in Canada, after the day of the announcement. That's not including Ferguson, which would be 114.
The announcement of.
The announcement of the grand jury has been waiting to tell us the news about what will happen to Darren Wilson, the policeman who shot unarmed Michael Brown 6 times through his raised hands. We've been waiting for this announcement for 3 weeks now. They keep promising us it's going to happen, and then it keeps not happening. The longer they wait, the more Ferguson and St. Louis look like they're ready for a hurricane. It's not pretty. Right this second in Ferguson, the ACLU has sent a bunch of lawyers. Antonio French has asked for a team of mental health care workers. The president sent the FBI and the state, what do you call, National Guard there. I wouldn't be there for me.
And the Unitarian Universalists have been there every day.
Yes. And Moral Monday from the East Coast was there in October. All right, so where was it? Seriously, look for this online. Please look for this online. The media tends not to cover it. The media tends to focus on the violence. The Ferguson protests had less violence than the pumpkin riot of north of Keene, New Hampshire. It did more damage. They set more fires and sent more people to the hospital than protests that have been going on in Ferguson for more than 100 days. I'm urging you to find an online source that you trust, not rely on mainstream media. I urge you to communicate with your favorite news channel and demand, by the way, it's very easy to talk to your favorite news channel. You have Google contact my favorite news channel and drop them a line and demand that when a man dies at the hands of the police, they show a picture from his yearbook and not his Facebook. As I said, if anything I said today raised your ire, we have some action you can take in the next room of the electronic variety. I would like you to consider personally donating to the Ferguson movement, maybe dropping a line to Eric Holder at the Department of Justice. I want you to remember, change is possible. We can make noise. We can support people far away from us. We can demand better images from our media. We can refuse to accept the norm. We can demand better. I want you to tell your grandchildren. I remember when every single policeman in America didn't have a camera attached to his uniform. I remember when there was no national database telling us how often and who was dying due to police force. I remember when Fox News and Huffington Post agreed on something. I remember when groups claiming to be the real KKK existed. And I remember when a little police force thought that if they blocked off the airspace over their town and arrested journalists, they could control the images that you see. I want you to remember when the revolution was tweeted.